Now we are coming to the question how to successfully change your organization in the age of digital transformation. As one of Scandinavia's most profitable magazine media publishers, Bonnier Publications redefined their strategy and set very ambitious goals. They did it highly successfully, and now the guy who's going to talk to you about this transformation mode they went through is Leif Jonasson. He's the editor-in-chief at Bonnier in Denmark. Very happy to have you here before lunch. Enjoy.
Thank you.
20 minutes for you.
Thanks a lot. I know very well that I'm the only thing between you and lunch, so I'll try to keep it within those 20 minutes. And this session is about change, based on personal experience. In the company I work for, which is a magazine publisher in Scandinavia, we do magazines out of Copenhagen, of Malmö, Stockholm, and Oslo, and we specialize in cross-border publications. So. I'm an editor-in-chief of our PC magazines and also overseeing a lot of editorial IT projects. This day, it was a Wednesday actually, I was working at a sub-editor at a newspaper in Copenhagen, and I was approached by a young staff writer who asked me, "Have you tried this new thing, the World Wide Web? Isn't that wild?" And I said, "Sure, man." To be honest, I didn't have a clue. And I really didn't have a clue what this new thing had in store for us and for the media business. I've been working for both printed and digital media now for a long time, and to be honest once more, I'm still not really sure what this thing, the World Wide Web, has in store for us. So, what I know for sure is that whatever we expect this thing to be for us in the future, all the digital opportunities, we also need to adapt the changes in our organization to be able to actually monetize and to make sure that everything works for us the way we want it. So this is not about some cutting-edge technology that we will need to implement and then make us the new kings of magazine media. This is more about some changes we have done in our organization and able to be working with both print and the digital media in a meaningful way. It's about change, and my point is we will need to prepare for never-ending change. Peter Kreisky, who's a leading media consultant, he's shared some very interesting ideas, and we have adapted some of his thinking in what we are doing in our company. For instance, how to rethink the organization, dismantle hierarchies, and establish new structures. And one of the most interesting things, how to create those high-energy co-creation workspaces. We've done that, or at least we've tried. And how to tear down the walls in each and every aspect. I mean, we've literally done it, but we've also done it physically. So is this all you need for the digital future? Because I believe you should definitely do all this. But maybe you will need to think twice, or 3 times, or even more, because change continues. So back in my newspaper days, we started out, we had all kinds of IT guys running around. We had web editors in every department. They didn't talk to each other very much. They were living in silos. And then we had a centralized IT department and web department, and we tried to put everything together. That didn't work, of course. This here could be a picture of how things were when I arrived at Bonnier Publications some 15 years ago. We had local editors, web editors at each magazine. Web development, however, was done in an IT department. Communication was a hard thing to do. We were stuck in new silos. Now, a couple of years later, today, maybe this could be how it looks. We've been in and out of the silos several times. Right now, we have integrated all the creative online and social media stuff with our brands. We also have a digital development department who are focusing on projects. And now this makes perfectly good sense for the time being. So what you see here is not very accurate, and it's definitely not static. So my point is, I think we probably made a lot of wrong decisions along this way. Other decisions may have been right, but not executed to the best of the possibilities. And some, of course, were right. But looking back, I think it may have been the very best thing to do to make all those wrong decisions. Because something that may look like a mistake today, for instance, to let the people stay within their silos, may have been the right thing to do at the time. Because when all the web people and all the app people and all the other techies were new to the magazine business, they needed to talk to each other more than they needed to talk to us. Today, the brands have changed a lot, and now, of course, it's possible for them to work with us as old print journalists, even if it comes at a price, of course, in their internal discussions. One small example, we only could afford one SEO specialist. So it was a good thing to let him stay with all the other onliners for a while, because it took some time before all the SEO stuff was common ground. So what I am arguing for is apply your changes boldly and do not hesitate to look back every once in a while and see if something worked better the old-fashioned way. It's going to help you. What you need to do is to carefully see which stage of the digital transformation you have reached and where you want to go next. And then you will have to build your organization accordingly. There's no size or shape here that fits all. For the time being, for instance, I think we've done the right thing in our integrated newsrooms, but it always comes at a price. Because when I talk to online editors now, they do have a problem keeping up with all the new stuff that is arriving from all corners. So we will soon need to find a new way to do this. So one thing that is very important in all aspects of this change is to share whatever you've got. I'll give you an example. This is the boardroom at Bonnier Publications, with the company's strategic goals nicely put into 4 little picture frames, clearly visible, wall-mounted, still easy to exchange and renew. This being seen in a boardroom might not be so surprising. So what you see here is one of those high-energy co-creation workspaces. Maybe the energy level here is not as high as desired, but it was outside office hours. Then again, the interesting thing here comes here on the bookcase in the back. If you take a closer look, it's our strategic targets within the company. That this employee on the picture decided for himself to print out these company's strategic goals and have them visible. He's not a member of the management. He's just a smart, hardworking magazine guy, and there's no prize to win for him as Employee of the Month. So I asked him, why would you want to have that hanging there? And he said without hesitation, it helps me focus on what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. In my opinion, it's just a great little indicator that we have succeeded to some degree when it comes to the difficult task of letting all the employees understand and internalize the strategy and the radical changes that we are going through. Communication is the key for that. So some of the things that we are doing within our company is that we publish a weekly newsletter. We actually have a small intra site where people can see all the new things that are happening within the company. If there's breaking news, then it will be published all through in a special issue of this newsletter. Whenever there's a board meeting, the entire management is invited to extensive briefings. All the staff go to informational meetings also, and the management breaks down the numbers and explains all the new projects we are doing, tells us about a lot more about the new things that are to come. And after that, all departments may go to their own meetings to discuss further and to try and find out what it means to their own reality and their own business. On top of that, we have created some new open spaces in order to encourage discussion and exchange of information. This is one of 4 new coffee stations opened recently, and both the quality of company coffee and of the information level have taken a noteworthy step forward. Another thing you may want to do, and which has been important to us, is to empower your staff. And talking about knowledge and sharing information, there's another word for that. It's education. Which leads me to my third point. Being an experienced print journalist doesn't mean that you have to be a dinosaur. And not when it comes to digital transformation. The profound understanding of your business, the knowledge you have acquired over the years, for the company it's an investment, and it's one you may want to protect and develop. So one way we have been doing this was the so-called Digital Awareness Program. It was a 5-day program for all journalists, all onliners, all editors, even the management came. It started right here, and we were lucky enough to have Chris Llewellyn as a speaker. He explained us something about cats on the internet, but a lot more. So this was the kickoff day in December 2012, and there were 4 other days where we went into web journalism for print people. For many of them, it was the first time they ever had contact with this. They had some new views on how to write copy and how to work with that text online. Search engines were explained and experiments made. We had social media and video production for dummies. So after this, every journalist within our company would be able to go out and make a simple video and publish it. We mainly publish special interest magazines based on a subscription model. So that means editorial quality matters a lot. We care about content, and our customers are willing to pay for it. So in the bigger picture, of course, we know that customers in the digital market, they are willing to trade quality and credibility for convenience and speed. So we need to be able to deliver different kinds of content on those conditions too. And our digital awareness program was kind of paving the way to get there. Editorial development in this context is a lot more than that. We are working on several projects, and some of them I will mention later on. But most of all, we are trying to create an environment where young geeks and experienced journalists work together, making all of us smarter and more competitive. Because that's a much better solution to us than just to hire a lot of young techies and leaving the rest behind. So this is why I would advocate to embrace technology, but not to forget to include the print. This here is the CEO of the Swedish Bonnier Group, which we are a part of. And Thomas Franzén is, among other things, a civil engineer. And he has said repeatedly that technology is a focus for every company within the group. And I quote, "With transparent leadership as the driver, we will increase our focus on technology, customers, and collaboration. And our goal for 2020 is to be a digital company." Well, I like to work in one of those companies, and I'm happy to do it. I totally agree. I was also very happy to find this headline in 2014. Because the article behind this argued why we, as media businesses, should be very interested in technology. The first statement here is one you definitely have heard before, and you know all about it. But half our lunch has been eaten by competitors that we did not really expect to be in the media business, but they are. But the other thing is, and you heard it this morning in the keynote, also that consumers, not only the young ones, but all consumers, they use the best in technology already, so why wouldn't we? And some of those consumers are actually also up to eat some of our lunch, because our rivals are not big media companies, not necessarily, and it may be others than Facebook and Google. It could be a 14-year-old girl with a WordPress blog that takes you out of business. So a good technology basically means you do better publishing. And that means, again, you have happier journalists, they do a better job, so why worry? For everybody here, and many of you may be what they call digital native citizens, most of this could be old news. But I'd like to make a suggestion. Remember to do all this and remember to include your print. We want to use smart systems, and one of the reasons we are doing that is that we can reuse our content smartly, and we also want our print operations to be a part of that, even if a lot of this is going on in the digital world. I can show you just some few quick examples. And I'm sorry to say, this is all about print in the first slide, but it works very well. We used to be exclusively into magazines, and then we realized that a good portion of what we published here could be reused in the form of books. So we started a whole series of books. Currently, we are also producing some one-shot magazines for newsstand sale, where we derive the content back from the books. So it goes from magazines to books and back again. Another example here is from one of my magazines, where we do a lot of testing of gadgets and hardware and software and whatnot. We publish it online first, and on the right, and then we put it in the magazine afterwards. We also have recipes and food recipes in a lot of our magazines, and this is a new website that came out recently where you can just put in whatever you got in your fridge, and it will suggest what to eat tonight. So the interesting thing about all this is you need to have smart systems in place to be able to do this in a way that really makes sense. So we are now in. The content needs to be reusable in all kinds of packages. That means entire magazines or just selected articles or maybe just a little piece of text, a photo, a soundbite, a video, whatever it is. So we need to have a new system in place that makes sure that we can find all this content, that it is indexed, and that we have one common platform. Technology itself can also become the driving force, and it can influence the way you think, how you develop your business. Just one of the learnings from our project so far, getting to this new platform, is our initial idea about the system was that every magazine should have its own little closed entity within the system. It seemed unthinkable that a fellow editor in Sweden should have a look into my magazines, for instance. But then we developed the idea to collaborate on this, let some similar titles go to the same spaces. And now our goal is actually to do one platform where every magazine can basically have a look at what everybody else is doing. And we will have some rules of engagement because we can't have people just to snatch this from each other. But the big idea now is to actually make all content available to everybody who can use it within the group, across borders, across companies, and within the Bonnier Group. In the next stages, we will have to align a lot more of our technical stuff, and we know that, and there's a lot of work ahead. We'll have to work even smarter with our print production, of course. So, of course, I would have liked to take credit for all the things we are doing myself. I've only contributed with a tiny little bit of this puzzle, but some of the people who are leading the way are actually present in this room and at this conference, so feel free to come and ask us. We're here today and tomorrow. And by the way, I think we have time for a few questions if you have any.
Thank you very much, Leif. We start to eat up your lunch, but only for a couple of minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Srini. I'm from India, and I will be speaking on a similar subject tomorrow. I have this challenge about evergreen content. How do you get journalists to actually dig back into the content that has already been published, which is actually, it's got a lot of relevance, but how do you get them to actually repackage and reuse it? Because journalists don't want to do that unless, they're doing some, PhD work or something like that, right? Or investigative.
How do you do that?
If I understand the question...
How do you motivate journalists to go back to the content and repackage it and do new things, because they tend to want to do new stuff?
Okay, I think we have made a special department for that. So whenever we decide to make a new series of books, for instance, we have had some... we have a do-it-yourself magazine, and they did a do-it-yourself book from the content there, but it was a task force who were handpicked to do exactly this.
So that means only people who really feel attracted to do it, they go there.
Yeah.
And they are part of that process. I have another, please let's talk a bit about the dark side of your coin, yeah? So you didn't share your insights on what was really problematic, because we know changing cultures in businesses is quite a tricky thing. So what was the hardest nut to crack during the process of change for you?
I think it was to somehow get this sense of ownership. That means that a lot of print people, they really wanted to be a part of this. And as long as we kept all the digital stuff within those silos, because as I mentioned earlier, I think it was a good thing to have them there in the beginning. But a lot of the print people, they felt that they didn't really have a chance to participate in what everybody thinks is the great future for us. So it was, I think they were eager to get there, but we weren't quite ready.
And we have the experience in Berlin, at least. We have a lot of co-working spaces. So there are companies who tend to go back because there are a lot of people who like silos and who feel safer in this environment. How do you tailor the surrounding, how to work within your company to the individual needs?
I think there's still quite a few people who'd like to have at least a cubicle or something of their own. And I think the only thing that I've seen that has been really convincing is whenever they found out that they actually had something to gain. So when the people who do tests from different magazines, they were actually sitting together suddenly and discussing stuff and discovering that they could get smarter with what they were doing. And that's a trigger that helps. So they have to personally get something out of it. Even if some of them have our strategic goals on their bookcase, then that must be something in it for themselves.
What's the biggest, just a short question, biggest challenge for the next year?
For the next year?
You don't have any? Oh, that's
a lot of them.
So what might be the biggest in this process?
I think it's a boring one. It's to be cost effective. So that means...
yeah, it's not very surprising.
No.
Okay, good luck in that. Thank you very much, Leif.